speaker for tonight, Miss Rebecca Leatherwood. I just met Rebecca a couple of weeks ago myself, and I've heard a little bit about Rebecca. She came to Jackson Lake campus not too long ago. Stand over here. It'll stop. There we go. We're good. It's just a lot of power radiating off of this girl, so that's what it is. Come on up here with me. Have a seat right here for me. Y'all, this is Rebecca, so give her a hand. And yeah, I just really met Rebecca, a couple weeks ago, I think, and just, heard her story a little bit. I don't want to fall off the stage here. Heard her story a little bit from Stephanie. If you're at the Jackson Lake campus, who's heard Rebecca kind of share her story before? A few of y'all. Awesome. So, yeah, Stephanie was kind of sharing about that with me, and then Rebecca had emailed me like in April. And then, man, I just got busy over the summer and forgot to email her back. And then, like, a month ago, I was finally like, oh, hey, you want to come to this thing? She was like, yeah, that'd be great. So, anyway, this is Rebecca. Rebecca, say hey to everybody.
Hey!
And what we're going to do tonight is simply this, just for the next few minutes. We're going to kind of have a conversation in front of you guys. And I really wanted Rebecca to be able to just share about her life. And I'm just going to ask, Rebecca, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions to kind of just give you the ball and kind of let you answer in front of them and just share about what you've been through and how God's really worked in your life. All right, so the first question would kind of simply be this. Let's just kick it off with you just telling us about yourself a little bit, just kind of background of who you are, and then share a little bit. We're gonna kind of go in 3 rounds, okay? We're gonna kind of do physical, we're gonna do emotional, and then we're gonna do spiritual. All right? So physical, emotional, spiritual. So we'll start off with the physical. So share a little bit about yourself and kind of the physical aspect of your life and how that's been, maybe had some difficulties there with kind of what you've gone through and just how that's affected you and kind of gotten you to the point that you are today as well. So go ahead.
Okay, so from up here, I look pretty normal. I sit up here like one of you, and the first thing I want you guys to take from tonight is that everything is not what it looks like. You can't tell from up here, but I have something called cerebral palsy. And for those of you who don't know what that is, for me, it is one of the most aggravating, most frustrating blessings in disguise that I could ever have. I was born with it, so I don't know any different. Cerebral palsy is a mental/physical disability. And most of the kids that you see with it are in wheelchairs, and they don't really know one day from the next. So the case that I'm in today is actually rare. But I didn't always look this way, and I didn't always sound this way. And if you look at some of my old pictures that I have, it doesn't really look like the same person at all. I used to have braces on my legs, and my feet used to be extremely turned in. A lot of people call it pigeon-toed, but it was really worse than that. And I used to walk on my toes really bad. And I walked through school you could tell very quickly that something just wasn't quite right. And when I was first diagnosed, I was 18 months old, and ever since then, my life hasn't really been the same as everyone else's. For me, the part of my brain that processes numbers and words and just certain things, it doesn't look the same as it would for you. It's not like dyslexia, but for me, mentally, intermission. So for me, mentally, it affects step processes. Math is extremely difficult because I can talk to you and I can write things down, but when it comes to trying to memorize something and put it on a piece of paper or trying to write a math problem down, it just wasn't happening. And physically, I couldn't run like the other kids. I remember going on the playground and I would be on the playground, but I couldn't run with them. And I remember going on field day and the people would just have to sign me off because I couldn't do what the other kids were doing. And I remember wondering why it was like that. I knew something was wrong with me, but I didn't understand what cerebral palsy was, and I just knew that I had it, but nobody really took the time to explain it to me. So the condition that I'm in right now it didn't used to be like that at all. I have learned how to walk 3 times. I have worked my way out of a wheelchair twice. And I've had 5 surgeries just to be with you tonight. And I spent my entire life trying to get up here. And so to be up here with you tonight is more than a blessing. I never thought I would be doing this. And I'm extremely grateful not just to be here with you, but to be alive, because I'm not really supposed to be alive. So I'm thankful to be here, but it affects my body, almost my entire body pretty much. I have a very weak immune system. It affects my brain, it affects how I sleep, it affects how I process things, it affects how fast I can do things. I can do what you ask me to, I just can't do it like you would do it. I will give you everything that I have, and you can guarantee that it'll be the best, but it won't be like you would do it. So I have learned over time how to accommodate for what I can do and what I can't do. My body basically accommodates for itself, so what my upper body can't do, my lower body kind of accommodates for it. What my lower body can't do, my upper body does. So just because up here I probably don't look very strong, but I'm stronger than I look. I have a black belt in karate, so watch out.
Can you demonstrate any of that right now? Like just some karates? You might want to come in.
You can come up here. You volunteer. I won't hurt you, I promise.
No, that's amazing though. For real?
Oh my God,
Can you do
I'm
this?
cheering.
Can you do this right now?
This is why I love it.
Show me like a move. Can you show me a move?
Okay, so,
Show us a move.
alright, so, yeah, like, because I have to, so,
Gosh.
we just, okay, so I majored in self-defense when I took karate. I taught all the kids self-defense, so I'm not going to show you a move by myself, so I'm going to teach you how to protect yourself. So I'm going to stand, you're going to stand in front, I'm going to move over because I cannot catch you on the stage. Okay. Very strong though.
Don't knock her off.
I can't pull a
She didn't sign a
Superman.
waiver.
So, I can't pull a Superman. So, what you're going to do is you put your hands up like this. Okay, so put your hand up here. Here. Okay, put your hand right here because I want you to protect your head. Okay, I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to hit you. I'm going to hit you, you're fine. But if somebody came to hurt you, you want to protect your head, right? Like this part, because that's like force. You don't want anybody to hit that, okay? Y'all taking notes, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking. Okay, so if somebody comes at you, somebody punches you, so I'm going to show you and you can do it on me, okay? Okay, so here we go. I'm going to throw a punch like this. I'm going to throw it out of the way, okay? Alright, so now you throw the punch at me. Out of my face. It's okay.
Already punches like this.
Okay, so really punch me in the face. Okay. not like all the way to my face. This is great. So just like this, and I'm gonna block it. Okay, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna come under. Come under. Okay. You okay? You alright?
Yeah,
Okay. Go under. You're okay. I'm not gonna pull you off the stage. You okay? Okay. This. I'm not gonna break your arm. I promise. You okay? Okay. Your arm is back here. So I just let myself go.
Man.
Yeah.
She just flipped the script on me. Oh, you're terrible at this. You're a horrible fighter at the stage. It's all good. Awesome. Man, that is incredible. So,
I can throw a punch to the head, but I'm not gonna do that.
you can throw what?
I'm supposed to throw a punch to her head, but I'm not gonna do
To her head? Ow. Just like in the back of the head?
Yes.
That's what they teach you in karate, to punch people in the back
that.
of the
Yeah, well, I
head?
was supposed to knock her out so they can't hit me.
Bam! Back of the head. Okay, so we have established that you're awesome. So in the physical realm, you've shared some struggles with us. So cerebral palsy and how that affects your mind and really your whole body in different ways. And that's crazy and it's amazing. Did you hear the part? She said she's taught herself to walk 3 times, basically.
I taught myself how to walk with my feet crooked.
Yeah.
And then I had a major back surgery when I was 4. And they cut the muscles and nerves to my legs so that my feet could be flat. So when they did that, they basically rewired everything because I had to learn how to do everything over, not just walking, but I had to learn how to hold a pencil in my hand again. I had to learn how to color. I couldn't hold a fork like I was supposed to. All the muscles in my hands are really, really tight, so if I like pick up this pen, I would hold it like this. I had to have somebody teach me how to hold a pencil, and if you watch me write, I hold my hand all the way down here, not intentionally, but it's just how my hand holds things, and it's really tight. So by the time I get done writing like a paper, or if I am coloring with someone, I am with kindergarten a lot, and they'll ask me to color with them, and I don't realize it, but I'm holding the crayon and I'm coloring, and all of a sudden the crayon will actually break because my hand is so tight that it'll just break the crayon. So I break tips of pencils and crayons, not intentionally, but my muscles in my hands are so tight that they break, and that's pretty much what my muscles feel like all the time. So in some aspects, I actually force my body to move so that I can walk and so that I can do normal things like you. So it doesn't just come naturally to me to walk and to run. I actually force myself to do it, but it doesn't look like I'm forcing myself. I mean, you guys saw me running around out there earlier, and it doesn't look like I'm putting effort into it, but it's just because I've learned how to make it work.
Wow. So it obviously, you know, when we have physical struggles, and like you said, kind of what it looks like on the outside to everybody is one thing, but there's always something else kind of going on inside as well. So let's go kind of to the emotional part now, and just share with us a little bit from, you know, throughout your life, you know, how has what you've gone through physically really affected you emotionally, and what trials have you kind of endured with that, and also maybe how have you been able to overcome those things a little bit as well.
Okay, so the first one is obviously I struggled with how I looked. I struggled with not understanding why I didn't look like everyone else. And the hardest part for me, I remember going to school, and I wore jeans to school one day, and it was about 100 degrees, and I was in like 4th or 5th grade at the time, and I decided that I was going to wear shorts to school, and I did because I had braces on my legs still, and with braces you have to wear socks and you have the brace and the shoe. And just a little side story, me and my mom, when I was little, we went shopping for shoes, and with braces you can't wear regular shoes like everyone else. You can go shopping for them, and now they make braces and the shoe together, but we spent 6 hours looking for one pair of shoes, and we came home with nothing. So I couldn't wear shoes like everyone else. I was lucky to find even one pair, but I struggled with not looking like everyone else, and I didn't understand why. And then I would also, you know, I told you I wore shorts to school, and it was like the worst day because the kids knew that I had braces, and they never knew fully what they looked like until I wore shorts that day. And needless to say, after that one day, I never wore shorts again to school. And so I struggled with the image of who I was, but I also struggled with, I guess you could say how smart I was, because it didn't feel smart. A lot of people belittle special needs kids, and they think that they can't really think for themselves or they can't do anything. I could do a lot of things in my mind, I just couldn't get it on the paper. And so when I would take tests, and I would take spelling tests, math tests, when you have any kind of disability that has to do with the brain, they run every kind of test you could think of. But I remember going to school and failing like everything because I couldn't put it on the paper. I knew the answer, but until they figured out how to communicate with me in a way that I could understand or get it on paper, I failed almost everything. I definitely failed math. I didn't get 100 on a math quiz until I was in 9th grade, and I cried because that was my first 100, and I can't even remember now how I got it. Like, how did that even happen? I think the teacher I had at the time let me have like a partner just to walk me through it because I couldn't remember all the steps in the right order to do the process or do the problem in my head. But I love my teachers, and I do to this day, and a lot of them for me are my family now, but I couldn't communicate with them because I didn't understand what was really happening. They would ask me questions, and I couldn't put it on the paper. They would ask me questions like, what's 6 times 8, and I couldn't give them an answer. And to this day, I still don't have multiplication tables memorized. Do I understand the process? Absolutely. I can punch it in on a calculator and be fine, but I cannot work it out in my head. And I failed a lot of tests that way just because I couldn't put it on paper. As I got older, it got really interesting. When I was in 10th grade, I transferred to a private school, and we had to learn Bible verses every week. And I was really good at memorizing Bible verses. However, we had to write the Bible verse on pieces of paper. And I remember learning the verse and having the verse in my head, but the teacher gave me a piece of paper, and I would put my name on it, and we had to put the book and the chapter and the verse on the paper, and we had to write the verse out. Well, I struggled with spelling because I hear the word, and in my head I will spell it like it sounds. So half my words aren't spelled right on the paper, but I knew what the verse was. And the very first quiz I took, my teacher failed me because on the paper it didn't pass, and they counted off for spelling. And I was really mad because I knew what the verse was, and it wasn't until about 3 weeks later my teachers started picking up on my study habits, and they knew that I studied really hard, and they knew that I gave it all that I had, but the test scores and my study habits weren't matching up. So one day he pulled me out in the hallway, and he said, I want you to try something. I was like, okay. So he pulled me out in the hallway, and he said, I want you to tell me the verse, and I picked up on it right then, and I told him verse, chapter, and the book, and the entire thing right off the bat. And from then on, that's how they tested me. I had to memorize the preamble, and I put it together like a puzzle piece. I knew the preamble, but I couldn't write it on the paper. So I failed a lot of tests and a lot of quizzes up until that point because I couldn't put it on paper like they wanted. I almost failed biology because I couldn't write the answers on the paper, and then they gave me a test that was multiple choice, so that the answer was there, and all I had to do was circle the right one and figure it out. And after that, I passed, but I can't put all their answers on the paper. So just to give you an example of what school is like, I love my teachers, but I failed a lot. And so in my mind, I felt like I was a failure. And not only did I feel that way because of my test scores and what people were saying, I also felt ugly because people were calling me ugly, and I was bullied to the point of having my arm broken. So I was struggling not only with this physical part, but the mental part of my mind wasn't right, and I felt like a failure. I felt ugly because people called me that. People would stare at me all the time. Kids would push me into the walls. I had my own Band-Aid box because I fell down all the time, and my teachers would help me put Band-Aids on. And I had a teacher who helped me put my braces on every day because I came to school one day with my braces on the wrong feet. And she helped me put them back on the right way, but by the time she had taken them off, I had blisters on my feet everywhere, and they were bleeding, and so she would have to fix all of that every day. And if it weren't for some of my teachers, I don't know if I would be here today. And my mom would help me study all the time, and she saw that I worked hard, but it didn't come across on the paper. So even though I can sit here and I can talk to you, and you probably can't even tell that anything's wrong with you, but it doesn't look that way on paper. So I always felt like I had to prove myself, and I always had to have the right thing. I couldn't afford what everybody else had, and I couldn't fix what I already had. So I had to figure out how to work with what I had, and my mental state wasn't very good. I didn't understand my purpose. I didn't understand the value of my life. And if you don't understand those two things, you don't have anything. You can have as much money in the world, but if you don't understand those two things, then you're more disabled than I am. I understand why I'm here. I know what my purpose is, and I know what my value is. But if you don't have those three things together, then you end up having nothing. And I didn't understand that until I was 12. That's the really cool part of the story. I don't want to get there yet. But yeah, I spent half my life not knowing what that was really like. There are three most important days in your life: the day you were born, the day that you were born again, and the day you knew why. And that didn't come to me until I was about 13 years old. So I didn't always sound like this. And if you need somebody to talk to about, just anything, I've pretty much gone through it. And I'm not afraid to tell you about the hard parts of my life. I'm not even telling you guys the whole story because there's still a book I haven't wrote yet. My family, my parents are divorced, so you're looking at the first generation of somebody who's not divorced. I'm not married or anything, but I'm not really looking for that. But I'm not married and I'm not divorced, and I come from a family of alcohol and bipolar parents, and that whole story right there is different. But this is like first generation everything, and it takes a lot of guts to stand up to your family and tell them that you're going to do ministry, because one half of them is very materialistic and very into money, and the other half of my family isn't even involved with my life at all. So I asked God to give me a new family, and He did through a lot of people. So you're looking at first generation everything. My last name is Leatherwood, and it doesn't sound, great from where it comes from. But just because I grew up with all these things doesn't mean that I have to look like them. I don't have to look like failure. I don't have to feel any less like I'm any less of a person. No matter what, I'm still a human being, and I still have bad days. I have gone through a really hard season recently, and I'm still walking through it. So just because I'm up here doesn't mean that I'm not a human. I still walk with things. So I am just grateful to be here, and this is a privilege and an honor to be able to share with you.
Gosh, so much in there. I mean, I think all of us probably can listen to that and just hear some part of our story in what you said. Some part of myself and some part of all of us, not thinking you're enough for some reason, having to prove yourself for some reason, or the way that you look, or the way that you think, or anything. I think we can all probably relate to a lot of that. And going through that at the same time with cerebral palsy and being able to fight those battles every single day and through bullying, and man, it's incredible. And it's incredible, like you said, to understand that there is a purpose behind things, right? And to kind of think through that sometimes can be really difficult. So let's go to the spiritual part. And when I say spiritual part, really what I want you to just share with us to kind of wrap it up would be really, how have you seen God kind of interwoven throughout your life? How have you seen God working and moving in those parts of your life? And really to the point like you kind of alluded to where, you met Jesus and how that's really changed you. So just in that sphere, in the spiritual sphere, how would you say God has been part of your story?
Okay, so for starters, obviously, I didn't see God at first. I didn't understand anything. I didn't even understand why He created me in the first place at the beginning. And when I was 9 years old, that's when I accepted Christ, and that's when I was baptized. But it didn't quite match up for me until I was about 12 years old. And somebody told me, I was playing upward soccer, and I had a really awesome soccer coach. And she was a lot older than me at the time, and she kind of became my mentor. But one day we were sitting in devotions, and the devotion that she had was called The Image of Christ. And one of the things that she told me was, I have never met anybody with cerebral palsy, and I'm still learning what that is. But I don't care what you look like, and I don't care what you have, and I don't care what you do have, what you don't have, or what you passed and what you haven't passed. I just want you to know that I love you and that you have this for a reason. And she told me that each one of us has a diamond inside of our hearts. And she looked at me and she told me that she was going to help me dust that diamond off. And I didn't understand what that meant at the time, but at the end she told me that if you dust the diamond off and you purify it and you hold it up to the light, that it creates a rainbow. And over time I started understanding that. She mentored me for a long time, and she still does to some degree today. But at that moment, that was a turning point for me. Not only did I finally meet somebody who didn't care what I had or what I didn't have, because that was not there until I was 12 years old, but I finally met somebody that helped me understand why all this was happening. Those braces and the surgeries were awful, and I can't sit up here and tell you that they didn't hurt. There are certain parts of my life that I still look back on and they scare me to death, because even though I survived through it, I remember how horrifying it was, and it didn't make sense to me until that point. And then when I was 13, I knew that I was going to be a missionary, but I still didn't see things coming together until I was about 16. I was still being mentored, still understanding this whole diamond inside of my heart thing. But when I was 16, I went on a mission trip, and I ended up speaking for the first time out of the country. I had less than 24 hours to prepare for it. And the pastor that ran the youth camp that I was working on, he basically interviewed me by himself in the kitchen, like of all places, in the kitchen, right there, and he's like, "You want to do the service tomorrow?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm in another country. I have no idea what you mean by that." And he's like, "I just want you to share your story and talk to me, or talk to them like you've talked to me." And I'm like, "Sure." That's my first response, but on the inside, my heart's like blowing out of my chest, and I'm freaking out because I used to be mute in school, and all of a sudden now you're going to pull me in front of a crowd of people, and I'm expecting like maybe 10 people. No, there were 75, 80 people there, and I'm in another country, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm sitting here rocking back and forth like this, freaking out, and he pulls me up and calls me up, and all I had was my Bible, and in my heart, I had no experience whatsoever. But the whole time while I was talking, it was really, really quiet, and everybody was staring at me, and I couldn't tell if it was because they were really interested or they were really bored. Like, either you're really bored or you're really zoned into what I'm saying. I didn't understand that then. But over time, I went all these years not understanding anything, and then I met one person who finally told me the truth of my value and my purpose all in one. And then I get to 16 on this mission trip, and this is happening. And when that service ended, all those people that were there stood up and clapped, and I was like, I didn't know what to say. I just stared at them like with my mouth open, and I was freaking out on the inside, because for me, I knew that that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Not just because I'm up there watching them, but because that was that moment where I understood why all of that happened. If I hadn't gone through what I went through, then I couldn't tell you the story tonight. And then, I finally understood what my purpose was. Like, did I go through this for my benefit, or did I go through this for someone else's? If you really think about it, the only reason why I'm up here is because I was made different. I have cerebral palsy. If you look around, all of you are made differently. None of you have the same kind of hair or anything. But there's something unique about finally understanding that when all those people stood up, that was it. Like, it all just fell into place. If I had to look back on my life, I see all the pieces finally fitting together. And I'm not done. I'm not perfected. I'm not perfect. I won't ever claim to be. I will have, I have a 99.99 chance tomorrow of waking up with cerebral palsy all over again. But every day is something new. I'm always looking for opportunities to help people. I love what I get to do up here, but it's not just about in buildings like this. It's about walking through Walmart all the time. People know me by name in there, and they may not know my name, but they know I'll smile at them and I won't yell at them. But if that moment hadn't happened, then none of this would have ever happened. It wasn't until that moment I understood why it happened. Like I said, I may not have gone through it for me. It made me better. The surgeries made things better, and it was painful and it hurt. But if I had to go through that to help somebody else, then I would do it again. I don't necessarily want to, and if you told me that I had to have another surgery like that tomorrow, it would probably horrify me because I don't know what the outcome is. But if I had to go through it, all of that over again, knowing what the outcome would have been, then I would do it again. That is one thing that I wish that was a little bit different, actually. It might not have been so dark or quite as lonely, because there were quite a few days that I just wanted to quit, and honestly, I could have. I could have not graduated from school, and I could have quit. I did it because I wanted to graduate because I'm stubborn like that, but I wanted to graduate from school and I wanted to accomplish things. But if I had understood, if I could have seen this at the end, starting at the beginning, then I would do it for anybody. I would not have had the same amount of impact on people without it. But I don't take credit for it. I'm only doing what I'm doing because of Jesus. And I think about what Jesus went through on the cross as I was getting ready for tonight. I was thinking about it. And I think about, the night that Jesus was in the garden. He didn't want to go through that. But the whole time, they're beating him and they're spitting on him and they're beating him alive, every single drop of him. And then he gets nailed to a cross. He knew that was going to happen. And in the garden, he asked, for this cup to pass for him. And there are some portions of my life that I wanted that cup to pass. But if it was that, if that was the will for me, then I would do it again. Because the whole time Jesus died for me, he wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about me, and he was thinking about all of you. So if I could go back knowing that this would have been the outcome, then I would do it again. It would have, like I said, it would have been a lot less. It would still hurt physically and mentally, but if I could see all of you out there or anywhere that I am, then if it would make me physically better and more capable to do it, then I would do it.
I think about just hearing your story, and it just makes me go to scripture too, and Jesus obviously in the garden, but I think about the apostles that I see in the Bible, like Paul and Peter, these guys who went through so much, and like Peter who writes in 1 Peter that our trials come so that our faith, which is of greater worth than gold, which we just sang about with the bird songs, this faith that's greater worth than gold would be proved genuine, right? And may result in praise and glory and honor to Christ. And man, it's just such a good and refreshing thing to hear somebody talk about being able to look back on your life and see what you've gone through at this point and be able to say, hey, I'll do it again because I've seen where God's put me and seen what God's done with my life. I know you had one more story that you kind of wanted to share, right, about a student that's in here right now.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you share that story? Just a great example to kind of wrap this up, a great example of how God can use one person's pain and use one person's trials to really speak into somebody else's life. So
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, well, if your name's Ariana, could you please come join me up here? No. Okay, so, is it okay if I share this with you? You good? You sure? Awesome. Okay, so, I'm going to stand up here because I'm going to stand by you. You can't cry, because if you cry, then I'm going to cry. So if you're going to cry, just look over there. Just look over there. Okay, so how many of you I know some of you were at the other campus, and I shared the story about an orange t-shirt. How many of you remember that? Okay, I know some of you remember me from CLC, and I brought an orange t-shirt to that service. And on the front of that t-shirt was an eagle and the school band. I didn't bring it with me tonight, and I wish I would have now. But the person that I'm standing next to is much more important than that one t-shirt, because now I actually get to share with you the person that made that t-shirt. But there's a really cool story behind this awesome, amazing person right here. And if you know me well, you know I always have stories to tell, some really goofy ones and some really hard ones. And this is one of those that starts out really hard, but it has an amazing ending. So when I was in 12th grade, that was like 5 years ago, and Ariana was in 4th grade. And my senior year, I had 9 classes, and it was extremely stressful. And I can't say I hated every second of it, but I was pretty close. And I had 2 science classes that were back to back. She doesn't know this part of the story, so that's why I'm telling you. But I had 2 science classes that were back to back, and I had environmental science and physical science together. Please don't ask me how that works. If you have a processing issue like I do, you can pick up very quickly that that does not mix very well. I put the wrong test answers on the wrong paper, but I ended up failing a science test that day, and I asked my teacher if I could just go to the bathroom, because I had honestly gotten to a place where I had had enough, and I was really upset, not only with myself, but I was also a little bit frustrated with the teacher because I knew that she was going to fail me. So I asked my teacher if I could leave and just kind of get some water and refresh. And I walked out of the room and I went to the bathroom, and I'm in the bathroom by myself, and all of a sudden this 4th grade girl comes storming into the bathroom. And this is where it gets hard, you sure? Okay. All right. You can't tell me no because we're standing up in front of us. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So anyway, I'm walking into the bathroom and I'm there, and then she comes in, and she has no idea that I'm in the bathroom. She thinks that she's in there by herself. And this 4th grade girl comes in, and she's basically screaming to the ceiling, to high heaven pretty much, wishing that her life was over and wishing that her life could end. And she said that nobody cared, and nobody likes me, and nobody thinks I'm pretty, and nobody cares if I'm here. And I heard that, and it really bothered me I'm sitting in the bathroom like, great, this is so holy. I'm sitting in the bathroom listening to this. I'm sitting here, and it just really bothered me, and so I walked out. But before I walked out of the bathroom, after she said that nobody cared, out of nowhere, I said, I care. And she was like, like, I just heard every word that you said, and she didn't know it. And she didn't realize at the time, but it was me. I walked out, and she looked at me, and she said, is it just you, Rebecca? I said, yeah. And Ariana watched me for a long time with the elementary school kids. I was a teacher's assistant, so I spent more time with the elementary school kids than I did with my own class. And I'm standing there in the bathroom with her, and she's about this tall at the time. So now she's taller than me, which is like still not cool. But now she's taller than me, but at the time she was about right here. And she's like holding on to me to dear life. And I looked down at her, and I asked her, I said, first of all, I care. And I don't care what you have and what you don't have. And I don't want you to think that you're not worth anything, because I think you're worth something. And I said, is it okay if I ask you this question? And she was like, yeah. I said, well, do you trust me? And she's, uh-huh. She said, I see you all the time with the other kids, and they always just know that you're not going to break your promises. So she said, yeah. So I asked her this really hard question. And I looked down at her and said, are you going to kill yourself tonight? She's like, yeah. And I stopped crying. Can't cry. So she told me that, and I told her, I said, you can't do that. I said, I'm not going to let you. I said, if you do, then I'm personally going to drive to your house and come get you myself. I don't know who your parents are, but I will find out where you live. I said, I need you to give me 2 weeks, and up until that point, I don't want you to do anything. I don't care what they ask, I don't care what they say, just don't do anything, and I'll take care of it. And 2 weeks went by, and I told her that I was doing the chapel service at my school. And she was sitting in the back, and looking at her, looking to everybody. I told her that I didn't care what she had, and I didn't care what she looked like, or what the scale said, or how ugly she thought she was, because I thought she was absolutely beautiful. And I told her that, I loved her, and I wanted her to stay here, and she's not by herself. And she came up to me after the service, and she gave me this huge hug, and then I told her, I said, something really cool is going to happen for you in about 2 weeks. I'm like, Jesus, I don't know what I just said. You better make something happen. Don't know what it is. You better make it happen. You're the king of the universe. We're having this conversation. I'm having all this conversation in my head. Like, this is going to happen. She didn't know that. Sorry. Surprise. She's like, I didn't know what was going to happen at the time. And the school that we went to was doing a t-shirt competition for this thing called Other's Day. And the kids got to design the t-shirt. And Ariana came running up to me one morning at about 7 o'clock, and I'm like walking in like a zombie. And she shakes me, she's like, Miss Rebecca, I won. I'm like, you won what? Because I missed the announcement. I didn't know what they were drawing for, and I didn't realize that they were doing a contest that day. Well, a 4th grader who once had no hope and no life and wanted to end her life won the t-shirt competition, and the whole school wore her t-shirt. And I still have that t-shirt to this day, and I share it a lot. I don't share it everywhere, but I share her story a lot, and I always have that t-shirt as a reminder. And when I went back to my classroom after this whole thing happened, I don't care about my test score. She could have failed me and I would have been like on top of a mountain. Because somebody's life is more important to me than a test score or any amount of money that you could ever give me. So I graduated, and then I saw Ariana a couple of years ago here because I came to visit. And there was about a 3-year gap, and she came running up to me. I said, are you doing good? She's like, yeah. And about 5 years later now, she's standing here next to me. And it didn't happen because of the t-shirt. It happened because some girl just failed her test, and God put me there at the right time. And I love telling stories like that. But I don't care about your test scores or your money. I care about you, and it's because of stories like these. So Ariana's still here, and she's still awesome. But yeah. You don't have that t-shirt anymore, do you? No. I still have it, and it's like my perfect reminder. But this girl right here is really special, and she's a reminder for me as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so she's like just my living, breathing right here. And if that was my purpose at that moment for that one thing, and I know there's several other people that could have stories or whatever, but I would do it again. That test score that day didn't matter. And my teacher asked me, oh, what's wrong? I'm like, I can't even tell you. She has no clue that happened. And I didn't care. She could fail me all she wants, because I just passed the test. So I'm good. I'm good.
That is a good story. That was an awesome story. So, man, guys, look, this is a perfect example and a great testimony to the fact that you, one, you don't ever really know what's going on in people's lives, if you don't talk to them.
right? If you don't ask them, if you don't get to know each other and just open yourself up to being able to be used by God, and too, like Rebecca said, to know that, man, we can go through so many different things in this life, and so many hard things, and things that don't seem to make sense, and failing tests, or whatever. I mean, God can use whatever He wants to use, however He wants to use it, whenever He wants to use it, right? To do amazing things in our own lives and in the lives of other people. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for being here tonight and just sharing with us. You guys give Rebecca a big thank you. Awesome. And I know the bird songs have one word that they're going to do for us. Is that cool with you guys? The bird songs play one more song for us. So, hey, let's do this. Y'all stand with me. I'm going to pray for Rebecca. And y'all just stand up. Let's pray together. And the bird song's going to play more. And after they're done, we're going to come back up and do some giveaways and get y'all out of here. All right? So let's pray. Lord, thank you, God, for Rebecca and her story, God. I know you're still writing. I know you're still working. I know you're still using her in her life. And I'm just so encouraged and so grateful to have heard her story a little bit. And God, I just pray that you would continue to use her and the books that she's written and is currently writing. God, the story that you're writing in her life. Thank you, God, so much. Thank you for using all of us. Not just Rebecca, but all of us in ways that we can never even imagine. Using our brokenness sometimes, using our pain, using our struggles, and reminding us that there's a bigger reason that we're here than just what we look like or what we have or don't have. I love the reminder tonight. It doesn't matter what we have or what we don't have, as long as we have you. So thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
When peace like a river attended my way, and when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my face the day when my faith shall be sight.